Good afternoon and welcome to Jonesy Chats Wrestling. In just a few seconds, we're going to be telling you about last night's penultimate Smackdown on the road to Fastlane. We're going to be talking about the status of the Wrestlemania card. Stay tuned. We want to hear your opinions in the comments. We hope you watch Jonesy Chats Wrestling with Jordan and Steve from SCW coming up next. Stay tuned, guys. Hi, welcome back to Jonesy Chats Wrestling on YouTube. I'm George, and this is Steve from SCW. Good afternoon. We've got a fun show coming up. In just a few seconds, we'll have all the talking points of last night's SmackDown show. And also later in the show, we're going to be discussing the status of the WrestleMania card. For anyone who's joining us for the first time today, new viewers and old are welcome. We hope you enjoy the show. Also give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for all the good stuff. Please do support what we're trying to do here at Jonesy Chats Wrestling. How are you today, Steve?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the channel once again. It's always good to be here. And yeah, we're going on the blue half of WWE this week, Friday Night Smackdown. So yeah, let's dive straight in.
Definitely. Without further ado, let's get to all the main talking points coming out of last night's SmackDown. So the show starts up. We've got Edge and Daniel Bryan kicking off SmackDown. Edge obviously brings up Daniel Bryan's claims to be in a main event spot at WrestleMania. This is because he loves it. It ends up with kind of them trading sort of insults. Edge obviously mentions how he won the Royal Rumble, how he deserves the title shot. This leads to a really decent retort from Edge, where he tells Bryan that Reigns has already beaten him. He's earned his spot by beating 29 other superstars in the Royal Rumble. Edge says, although he likes and respects Daniel Bryan, he doesn't like the way he's handled it. It then kind of ends up with them sort of just staring at each other. And he drops the mic and he walks off. So, Steve, what was your thoughts of this fantastic opening promo?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I must admit, I mean, Edge obviously feels that Daniel Bryan is not that kind of guy that's looking for an opportunity. But Daniel Bryan said it could be his last chance. He wants to put himself first. I really like the way this has been put together. I really feel we've got to build towards a triple threat now at WrestleMania. This one-on-one match between Roman and Edge, it really has gone to the side. Daniel Bryan's become the main focus here. I know Fastlane is coming up, but it feels criminal at this point to not make it a triple threat at WrestleMania. I was wondering at one point if there would be an added stipulation into the match at Fastlane, but I will touch more on that as we go towards the end of the show, because both do get featured towards the end of SmackDown.
I thought it was a really strong opening promo. Clearly, both wrestlers really got a lot of mic time. I really like the passion on both wrestlers. I think they really showed why they want that title shot. But no, I really kind of enjoyed it. You got anything else, Sean, before we go to the next talking point?
Okay. No, I agree with you. And let's move on to the next talking point.
Okay, our next talking point was the following 8-man tag. We had the Street Profits versus Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio facing the Dirty Dogs, Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode, and the Alpha Academy, Otis and Chad Gable. So looking at this match, Rey Mysterio and Dominic have been locked in this battle with the Alpha Academy since February 19th, SmackDown. The series is currently tied at 1-1. This was the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Dirty Dogs, first match since February 12th, where they lost to the team Cesaro and Daniel Bryan. They've had the belt since January 8th, SmackDown, where they won the belt for the Street Profits. The Street Profits are on a winning streak over the last month, winning their last two matches. One of these victories was over the Alpha Academy. An interesting note, there was no mention on commentary of the relationship between Dolph and Otis, where Dolph previously cost Otis' relationship with Mandy Rose. That was kind of ignored. What was your kind of thoughts of this match? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. What a difference 12 months can make, Otis going heel and being a partner with Dolph Ziggler, and no mention, like you say, on commentary. It was very interesting how that was put together. But as for an 8-man tag team match, I really enjoyed this one. It was fun, fast-paced. Everyone got time together in the ring. It went over one ad commercial breakout, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I mean, looking at it, the tag team division is getting used on SmackDown, which is good to see. You mentioned there with Rey and Dominic Mysterio. Also there with Otis and, of course, Chad Gable. That feud's been going on now for, well, nearly a month now. So it's good to see they're actually building rivalries as well. I still believe, ultimately, this will lead to all four teams going in for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships on perhaps night one of WrestleMania. Hopefully that will come to fruition. But the Street Profits picking up the victory for the baby faces in this. Montez Ford with that impressive frog splash towards the end there. Makes you think they might get the first shot, and maybe that could come at Fastlane. I mean, of course, then when the Dirty Dogs had a terrific tag team championship match not too long ago on SmackDown. So I'd be quite keen on seeing that. Would you?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the Street Profits are continuing their win streak. This feud with the Dirty Dogs has obviously been going kind of back since the first meeting back on October 6th. So, yeah, I think it's a really interesting feud. Maybe the Street Profits are the team to get the belt off the Dirty Dogs, but clearly the multi-man match at WrestleMania does look likely. I thought this was a fun match. It was really some really good moments in the match. I kind of enjoyed the part when they sort of stopped Ford getting a tag, and then Ford finally tagged into Mysterio, and I think that really kind of got the crowd going. Have you got anything else you want to add before we go to the next talking point?
No, let's go to the next talking point, my friend.
No problem. So our next controversial talking point is Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler taking Reginald on a shopping spree. So talking about this kind of point here. So obviously this was a backstage vignette, which they filmed earlier in the week. It shows basically them basically taking him suit shopping. For me, it was one of the worst kind of segments of the year. I really didn't enjoy it. I think it just further shows what's wrong with SmackDown. They're able to give this time to Reginald, yet they're not able to give any time to Andrade and people like Aleister Black. But it was just a joke. Him trying on jackets that he's already got. I think it was a waste of time. What was your thoughts, Steve?
Right. Okay. I agree. Reginald is far too much all over SmackDown. We've said this week on week, but for all the wrong reasons, I kind of enjoyed this. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it was kind of like say yes to the dress, but I mean, I suppose from WWE terms, it's kind of like what suit did Nia Jax find cute? I suppose. But did the WWE Universe have the show on mute? You can see I've been doing some poetry here. But yeah, I mean, obviously, looking at this, it was a badly put together segment. I think most people kind of were like Shayna Baszler on their phones. But the thing is, this was so cringeworthy that in a weird way, I kind of felt sports entertained. So weirdly enough, I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it was okay in parts. It was a bit over the top. I just think the placement wasn't too good. Steve, would you say that this is agreed one of the worst segments of the year alongside the Braun and Shane McMahon thing this past week on Raw? Would you say it was up there with that?
I wouldn't go with the same category. No, Shane and Braun was. I think both segments were intentionally meant to be bad, but this one was meant to be amusing. And like I say, I got a bit of amusement out of it. Maybe from a personal experience of the fact that actually for me, I mean, obviously I'm due to be getting married soon. So obviously the idea of suits and trying on stuff, I could connect with this segment better, despite how perhaps it's kind of poorly built. But at the same time, with Braun and Shane, that was just bad on all different kinds of levels. I mean, there wasn't any comedy, there wasn't anything towards that. So I wouldn't put this in the same category, no. But that can be from a personal experience that I didn't hate this as much. The only thing I would say was cringeworthy, maybe was the finish of it, where Reginald said, "How can I ever repay you to Nia Jax?" And she was like, well, you know, but what, you know, as it goes down, I would say that everyone played their part quite well. I found amusement out of this.
Okay, we're going on to the next talking point. So the next talking point is as follows: we get a rematch from last week where the recent return Murphy is due to face Cesaro. This was interesting enough because Seth Rollins was at ringside, sort of at the rampway rather. It was a pretty quick match. Cesaro basically ends up dominating the match. It ends up with Rollins running in for disqualification. After the match, we get Rollins beat down Cesaro. He absolutely kind of annihilates him. It ends up where he gets a chair. It looks like the officials are going to have to sort of stop him. They stop him from doing it. Then, interesting enough, Rollins walks backstage and he's face to face with Nakamura, and it ends. What were your kind of thoughts of the match and the segment after?
The match itself was really not much to it. I mean, Cesaro's looking strong and dominant each and every week, but this was needed from Seth Rollins to actually come and get an attack on Cesaro, actually building towards this. It's all been Cesaro to this point, and we're actually getting a story out of this now. Seth Rollins saying, "You're not on my level. You're wasted potential." I really like that. I love the attack, the curb stomps, the fact that Seth actually wanted to take Cesaro, put him on the shelf, make him miss WrestleMania. I thought that was really well done. For me personally, I think this match is building for WrestleMania, not for Fastlane. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. Really couldn't understand the placement of Nakamura there. I don't get why he didn't come out and make the save. But maybe if it's going to be Seth Nakamura down the line, I'd be a fan of that. But definitely, this should be a match for WrestleMania. It's going to be a great in-ring match. I just think I'm unsure what Murphy's role is in this. He seems to be a third wheel again, which is a shame for somebody so talented. Moving on to our next talking point, it's the KO show with Bianca Belair and the women's champion Sasha Banks. So this was obviously a fun segment. It had both baby faces kind of dueling. There was comparisons to LeBron James, Michael Jordan. It ends up with Banks saying she'll become two belts bank at Fastlane, regardless of what Belair does. Shayna and Baszler and Reginald then come out. What were your thoughts of the KO show?
I must admit, I wasn't as much of a fan of this segment. I think my main problem with it, I feel that Bianca and Sasha are doing the same thing each and every week, and I want to see that next layer of the storyline. I feel that WWE's kind of stuck in a rut and don't know quite what to do with these two. And Sasha's becoming least more and more unlikable each and every week. And I think it's meant to be that way. She's obviously going to that heel kind of way, but at the same time, I think even the promos are suffering because of it. But Bianca has been strong in it. Kevin Owens was fine in his role, but also as much as I was happy to see him back, I was disappointed to see that Kevin Owens was actually just brought here for the KO show. I'd have much rather him seen to get revenge against Jey Uso for the way he got taken out of the Elimination Chamber. And as well as that, I mean, we saw the interaction with him and Sami Zayn backstage. I wonder if that could be a possible WrestleMania direction. So for me, a lot of the things he didn't connect, unfortunately. I don't know about you.
I think the thing with it is the more I'm seeing this feud should be money on paper, but WWE are doing a really bad job of hyping it up. And it is deja vu every single week. The fact we got these two wrestlers stuck in this women's tag team match at Fastlane, it's totally a waste of time match, really. I think KO did the best he can. There was no explanation where he was, which for me is frustrating. I want to know where he's been, if that makes sense. There's no real follow-up. Oh, his head was slammed by Jey Uso. There's none of that. He should have been coming out angry, really, which we didn't really get that. Have you got any else you want to add before we get to the next talking point?
No, we're ready for the next talking point.
Okay, so we obviously had sort of the women's tag team champions come out. There's going to be a match all of a sudden between Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, and Natalya and Tamina. This was an interesting match. During parts of the match, Reginald was dancing on the table, showing off his jacket. That was the main focus, it seemed. He was kind of a distraction. It ends up with kind of Tamina getting a fluke win on Bianca Belair by rolling her up. For me, I just kind of thought that this is so kind of annoying. This is exactly what's wrong with SmackDown. We're having sort of time wasted on Reginald and all this lot when you've got people such as Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, sort of stuck in this feud. I think this loss here was a real sort of disappointment. I was disappointed to see Bianca Belair get beat on the road to WrestleMania. I think this really annoyed me. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this has been a bit of a mess the way this match was done. It was probably the weak point of the show. From the fun segment we saw Reginald earlier, it kind of made continuity in the storyline, and Reginald has been a lot of the focus of a lot of women's matches. I think that's a big problem with the SmackDown women's division, but I totally agree with you. I think rather than this direction, I would have much preferred to have seen Bianca Belair have a feud with Carmella on the road to WrestleMania. Even Sasha Banks go back to feuding with Bayley just for the time being, and then they meet back in the middle. I think it would have been a lot more entertaining than seeing this. And potentially, if you wanted Sasha and Reginald together, I mean, Sasha then could have perhaps turned, Reginald could turn on Carmella, but then also at the time aligned with Sasha Banks as Sasha turns on Bianca Belair. They could have done that mix or something. I think it would have been a lot more interesting than the cluster mess that we've got with this tag team match.
I think the thing with it's just interesting that they're building up Natalya and Tamina, which I kind of get, but the fact you're willing to risk this reign of sort of Bianca, the form she's in for this fluke loss, it doesn't really do much. I think the interesting part was after the match where Bella and Banks fell out. It looks like there's real tension teasing. Do we see them at Fastlane kind of having totally this fallout? And do we see Sasha going fully heel at Fastlane, or is this going to be just something that keeps building to WrestleMania, do you believe?
I'd like it to. I mean, I know they teased the idea of them being the first tag team champions that are opponents of WrestleMania since WrestleMania 23, but I don't want to see that direction. I want, I would rather them to be baby faces and may the best person win, but the way it's being booked now, we need Sasha just to turn heel, get on with it, do it, and we can have that match then, Belair versus Banks, face versus heel, like it should be. And again, it's made the best person win, but we know there'll be a few tricks from Banks.
Yeah, we obviously head backstage next where we've got Caleb Braxton with Nia Jackson, Reginald again. It ends up with Reginald suggesting Nia should get a title shot next week. So Reginald now is Adam Pearce. He's got the power to book matches, it seems. It's a bit far-fetched, but no, big match next week. Interested to see how that plays out. Obviously, there's a lot of teasing of Reginald, Sasha, Nia. It's a bit of a triangle. Big match announced for next week's Go Home show. What are your thoughts of this segment?
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right with Reginald and the Adam Pearce comparison. I do love that. But what I would say is it kind of does make sense in a way, though, because Nia has been on a roll winning matches. She's beat Banks. She's also beat Asuka in recent times as well. So she deserves a championship match on the road to WrestleMania. She's getting it. It's, again, a bit bizarre, though. We're getting on the SmackDown rather than the Fastlane. And it kind of links with the main event. Does Bianca Belair get upset about this now that Nia Jax is inserting herself in the title picture? We need some addressments with this, but also it can make sense as well technically because this could play into Reginald playing Nia Jax. It's not good to see that Reginald is the focal point, the chess player and all this, but maybe Reginald is the one that is actually aligning things to align himself with Sasha Banks long term. We'll have to see how it's going to play out, but I wondered on your thoughts with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Obviously, it's an interesting game of chess, but for me, there's more focus on Reginald than there is building Fastlane matches, it seems. I don't want to keep beating the same drum every single week, but it's just so annoying. Reginald has got some ability, but they let this guy wrestle down the line against women. Fine, I think it'd be worthwhile, but it's almost like Fastlane is the Reginald show. It's almost like Reginald Lane instead of Fastlane. It's just a total waste of time, really, for me. Do you want to move forward to the next talking point?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we had Biggie returning. Biggie does a promo. He says it's an eye for an eye. He's basically calling out Apollo Crews. It then ends up with an open challenge. King Corbin comes out. Sami Zayn comes out. Sami Zayn then sneaks in and gets a match. They have a great match in the Intercontinental Championship. Doesn't go very long. We end up with Biggie kind of getting the windfall. He retains the Intercontinental title. And then obviously from nowhere, we get Apollo come out. Apollo totally utterly destroys Biggie. He beats him down on the steps again. And it just kind of, it's interesting just to see the way they continue this feud. Obviously, subsequently, since we've got an announcement at Fastlane, we've got another match. We're going to be the long-awaited Intercontinental title match, Apollo facing Biggie for the IC title. I'm interested to see if they make this a no disqualification match so they can use the steps more. What were your kind of thoughts of this whole segment and the finish and stuff?
Yeah, I was a little bit worried they'd do the first stairs match since TLC and stairs back in the day. I think it was Eric Rowan and the Big Show, I think, but it would make sense for this and two better performers. But no, I really enjoyed this overall. I think Biggie's entrance was a bit random, but then once he got into the promo, he was fantastic. That aggressive side, that nature coming out of him, really enjoyed that. The match that was built there with, of course, like you said, it could have been Corbin. It ended up being Sami Zayn. I think we're teasing towards a multi-man match at WrestleMania. We're getting that one-on-one now with Biggie and Apollo at Fastlane to build the multi-man potential ladder match at WrestleMania. We have had them in the past for the Intercontinental Championship. I wouldn't be surprised to see that go down. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kevin Owens added to that mix as well, potentially Shinsuke Nakamura. But looking at the match itself, yeah, the right winner, Biggie, dominant here, picking up the victory over Sami Zayn. That was good to see. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed what followed the match as well with Apollo Crews.
Definitely. I think an interesting note. I think Apollo is going to be your next Intercontinental champion. He's the man to get the belt. I've got an interesting question for you, Steve. Do you notice the observation? His Nigerian guards were missing this week. So, as I said last week, it was a total sort of one-off appearance. They didn't follow up at all, did they, this week?
No, and I'm very pleased they didn't because I must admit, it just didn't connect with me last week. But seeing this Apollo this week, we're back to that aggressive side. I'm not waiting, and the passion that came out of Apollo Crews was fantastic to see. This is the Apollo Crews I want to see, and seeing that Olympic slam as well, hit a couple of times on Biggie. I agree with you. If this is the way Apollo is going to be booked, I'm excited to see where it's going to go. Biggie is an exciting talent as well, but I can see the same as you, Apollo, being the next Intercontinental Champion.
Definitely. We're going to go to the last talking point kind of the night. So the last talking point of the night, it was the contract signing for the Universal Championship. And that's obviously Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan for this coming Sunday's Fastlane next weekend. So obviously Daniel Bryan comes out. He gets a great reaction from the Thunderdome. Adam Pearce is there. There's real tension between Adam Pearce and Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns says he's not going to sign the contract. And then Daniel Bryan kind of winds him up to the point where he does sign the contract. It then ends up kind of with the match being made. From nowhere, we get Edge coming out. Edge comes out and he basically then sort of comes out. It ends up with Edge basically issuing a challenge next week. Edge is going to have his first match in 11 years on SmackDown against Jey Uso. Whoever wins will be the enforcer. We then end up with like a melee. It's a bit of a brawl. And then from nowhere, Daniel Bryan does what he does behind me. He takes out Edge in the melee. And the show kind of finishes with Daniel Bryan celebrating. What were your thoughts of this?
I really loved this segment. I think it was really well put together from start to finish. The idea that Roman wasn't feeling this match anymore. This isn't for me. I've beaten you. Why do I need to face you again? Daniel Bryan not accepting things. He's that opportunist and sort of said, look, I done something you couldn't do. He knew how to get to Roman Reigns, playing him like a fiddle. I made Jey Uso tap out, something you couldn't do, and Roman couldn't put up with it. He couldn't handle being that guy. And speaking of head of the table, by the way, it seems quite uncomfortable, that head of the table. There's not enough room for the plates, the glass. I don't know how he does it, but anyway, enough of that. Looking at things personally, Roman then signs the contract, and like you said there, Jey Uso got upset by things, said he could be that special enforcer. And ironically, I said to you straight after the opening segment of SmackDown when I was watching it today, before we got to this, and I said I had an idea of where I thought Edge could be involved in this because of the fact that I made a video yesterday saying that Edge should turn heel, costing Daniel Bryan at Fastlane. That should build to the triple threat match at WrestleMania. I wondered if Edge should be made the special guest referee for the match, but instead WWE did a different method of doing this, and that was making him or Jey Uso being the special guest enforcer, kind of like the Mike Tyson role at WrestleMania 14, if you do remember, of course, where he kind of count that official free count when the referee bump was made. He could insert himself into the match, and I think that's what we're kind of going to get here. It's clear Edge will be the person in that role, but it's very exciting to see Edge have his first match on SmackDown in 10 years or 11 years, whatever it is. It's going to be very exciting to see. And him versus Jey Uso should be an absolute instant classic. I'm really looking forward to it.
I think it's an interesting story. I think the fact you've got Edge with such a background, the same background as Daniel Bryan, both of them injured out for years, both coming back. Trivia question for you, Steve. I'm going to put you on the spot now. Who did Edge beat in his last ever SmackDown appearance previously? and it was back in
Oof.
2011.
Yeah, well, obviously, I know his last match was Alberto Del Rio at WrestleMania 27, but hard to know who that other person would have been. I'm randomly going to say Ricardo, Ricardo Rodriguez, just for a bit of fun.
Not a bad guess. Good guess. It's none other than Drew McIntyre. Edge's last match on SmackDown was against Drew McIntyre, and that was going back sort of to March 2011. So quite a big way away, but definitely looking forward to this. I think next week we're definitely going to get probably Edge getting his way into sort of this match, and I think Edge versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania with Daniel Bryan, maybe the triple threat. I'm looking forward to that. Are you?
Yeah, I'm really excited at the prospect. I think it needs to happen at this point because let's be fair, Daniel Bryan's been involved in this feud and why. If Daniel Bryan's a different direction for WrestleMania, we need to know what it is, and we needed Roman versus Edge focused on completely from yesterday. So for me, this needs to happen now to become a triple threat match. It then everything would make logical sense. I'm quite excited to see it. I think WWE building this would be quite fun because if it is Daniel Bryan's last WrestleMania or main event at least, what a way to do it. And I think it would be a great triple threat match. I would be quite in favor of seeing it at this point because we've not had the storyline that I thought we were going to get with Edge and Roman.
No, I think it'll be a great benefit to get the belt off Roman Reigns if that's the way they want to go down. He doesn't have to be pinned in this triple threat. So if you are going to have a new champion coming out of SmackDown, on the SmackDown side out of WrestleMania, this is the match to do it. One of them could get pinned and you could potentially get a singles match. And I think Edge and Daniel Bryan, maybe the month after, the Money in the Bank could be fun as well. Have you got any final thoughts before we get to our final story this evening?
Well, I actually think that's a great way to freshen things up. If you want to do that on SmackDown, like you said there, and you're protecting the head of the table. We still can feel like that and still have storylines that are not involved in the championship. That's a fantastic idea. I really like it.
Thank you. So the final story today is the status of the WrestleMania card. So obviously we're currently 4 weeks away today, Steve, from WrestleMania 37. We believe the card to be as follows. We've got Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, WWE title, Randy Orton versus The Fiend in some sort of gimmick match, probably going to be Firefly Funhouse, Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon, and then Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. Apparently there's other matches reportedly to be discussed, which is Miz and Morrison, Damian Priest, Bad Bunny, Oscar Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's title, the Dirty Dogs facing the Street Profits of the SmackDown titles. However, the ever-reliable WrestleVotes this week did a tweet. It basically said that the WrestleMania cards up in the air, all apart from the top matches, are likely to be changed. And apparently Dave Meltzer also said that in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. What's your kind of thoughts of the matches that are announced? And are you a fan of the card being changed at such a late stage?
I mean, it's always great to know like the match card well in advance. You know, I think when we discussed about this previously, Kurt Angle had said, you know, in a podcast not too long ago that he was used to the WrestleMania card being official by December at the latest, rather than actually at this point. It's becoming more and more last minute as each year passes by, and it's not really great for someone that wants a long-term built storyline. I know of many wrestling fans and YouTubers that are very uninspired by WrestleMania this year. And if that is going to be the match card, then perfectly fine with it, but start booking it, please. We need to really start getting some direction. Of course, once Fastlane passes, and I think that's what a lot of people's problem with Fastlane is, the focus is solely on WrestleMania. And that point, then we can start seeing matches being actually booked. Hopefully the Raw and SmackDown after Fastlane, we will go from 2 matches, hopefully to about 6 matches, because we really need a card put together, and we need it put together fast.
Yeah, I've never known them to leave it so late to get such a main card, but I think the main matches pick themselves. But the undercard, yeah, not that impressed, but we'll see what they do. But as I said, get Fastlane done next weekend, and then we can move forward. Have you got anything else you want to add before we end the video today?
I mean, obviously, when you said some of those matches, I can see a couple of tweaks in places, maybe some multi-man people. They like to get as many people on the WrestleMania card as possible, but obviously, we'll have to wait and see what's going to be announced over the coming weeks and months. Well, certainly weeks anyway.
Definitely. I appreciate you coming on, Steve. Thank you for your time as always. Before we end the video, please tell everybody what you've got coming up on your channel this coming weekend and onwards.
Thank you very much. It's really nice to hear. As always, SCW, the wrestling channel, go and check it out now. The Q&A will be available tomorrow, Ask SCW, where you get to ask your questions in the wrestling community. I will answer them for you. And as well as that, also, I've got NXT Stand and Deliver match card predictions. Impact Wrestling has taken a bit of a focal point this week, with Sacrifice being this evening. And next week, of course, the Fastlane predictions will be coming on the channel as well.
Definitely. In terms of myself and Steve will be on the Rated R for Wrestling and covering Super Bowl 3. That'll be kind of coming later today, we hope. But no, I appreciate you all watching the video. Thank you very much for the recent subs and comments and stuff and checking out the videos. My last question to you fans watching is let me know in the comments below what you think of WrestleMania. Are you happy with the matches that have been announced? Are you excited with Fastlane? What would you like to see instead? But thank you for watching. This has been Jonesy Chats Wrestling, joined by Steve from SCW, and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.